Poštovani gledatelji, srdačan vam pozdrav. Danas ugošćujemo jednu njemačku sociologinju. Njezino ime Gabriele Kuby. Na hrvatskom tržištu mogu se pronaći dvije njezine knjige. Prva je Nova ideologija seksualnosti, a druga i posljednja koja je izišla nedavno u Hrvatskoj, to je Svjetska, seksualna revolucija. Evo, pozdravljamo gospođu Gabrielu Kuby. Welcome to our show.
Hello.
Vi ste obraćenica svojevrsno. Zapravo obratili ste se na katolicizam prije 16 godina. You have converted to Catholicism 16 years ago. How did it happen? What were you before that?
That's of course a long story. The beginning is that I was baptized with 8 years and it was my own wish. And then I more or less lost faith. I got into the student movement of 68. And then in 73 I had 2 experiences with God. I knew God existed and I searched for God for over 20 years on paths of esoterics and psychology. And all this led into a big crisis. I'm the mother of 3 children. We were married and our marriage got into difficulties and we separated, and then I seriously started to pray. And somebody came and said, pray. And I prayed, and at the end of this prayer, I knew I would become a Catholic. That was at a time when I, from my personal mind, rejected the Catholic faith and the Catholic Church. And all of a sudden it was clear I would become a Catholic. So that was the story of God with me.
And why exactly did you decide to be a Catholic? What is so attractive?
That wasn't a decision. That wasn't a decision. It was just there. It was just clear. You know, I prayed this novena, and I mean, if you convert, I converted from zeitgeist, from everything people believe in our society, and it wasn't, you can't decide about a faith. Something happens, and God calls you in a certain way, and it was just clear. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a decision with your mind. It just came, I think it was a grace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But can you explain someone else why a Catholicism?
Now I can, of course, yeah.
Why?
I was a searcher for God for over 20 years because I had experienced God exists, and I've been searching and searching and searching for God in a serious way, yeah. And I found the path, the open path to God in the Catholic Church with the Eucharist. That is the main center of my spirituality. I experienced the closeness of God in the Eucharist. And you have you have the sacraments, you have confession, you have something where you can go and say, here are my sins and they're taken away. I mean, amazing, yeah. And it's so rich, it's a treasure house of 2,000 years where you can find what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You've had several meetings with Pope Benedict. You gave him your books. What did he say about your books?
Well, I had a first meeting in 2002. I was invited at some conference, and he was there. He was cardinal then, and I was invited to that dinner. And there were dinner speeches, and I suddenly had something I wanted to say, and my heart started pounding, you know. And well, I dared to get up and say something, and I said, I'm a member of the student revolution, and we destroyed authority. And I'm very happy that I'm now in the church and I can love the authorities of my church. I meant him and John Paul II, who was the Pope then. And I said, I just have one worry, who will be the next Pope? And he said, don't worry, we have many good men in the church. So a few years later, he was the Pope. And there was correspondence with him before he was a Pope, from his side also. And then I had the opportunity last year at the general audience in Rome at 31st of September. I was allowed to give him my book. And my new book, this Global Sexual Revolution. And I was very surprised. You walk up to him and he looked at me and he said, we haven't seen each other for a long time. I mean, I was just totally amazed that he would say that. And then he said, where are you now? And I said, I'm still in the village so-and-so, which is, he knows that because he comes from that place in Bavaria. Yeah, he knows all the area. And then I gave him the book and I said, I try to say the truth as long as it is possible. And he said, yes, this is difficult. Thank God that you speak and write.
What do you think? Why people today want to reject authority?
Well, that was...
Authority of church.
They basically, our time rejects the authority of God. That is the basic thing. We reject God. We say we do everything ourselves. We even choose our sex. Yeah, that is gender theory, which we will speak about. We reject God, and then of course we reject the church, and then we reject all authorities. The student movement of '68 was deliberately going against any kind of authority. And of course we reject the authority of parents, any kind of authority. But we need authority as human beings. We need to look somewhere, a good authority, not a suppressing authority. We need good authority of people who go before us and who have something to give to us.
Mm-hmm. And now we are going on our topic today. Can you explain the term sexual revolution, when it began? Who are the initiators of that revolution?
Well, it depends how long you want to go back. In my book, I have a chapter, and I start with the French Revolution, and I show how step by step by step by step by step we come to where we are now. So it's a long process, but a very decisive event was the '68 student revolution in the Western countries. The countries under communist oppression was in a way saved from this. And when I see what is happening now, they try to catch up as fast as they can. Yeah? And although they could see the dangers now, they could see what is happening, that the family is breaking apart, that our young people have great difficulties to master their life. It's all obvious. And yet, my book was published in Poland last week. It will be published in Hungary and in Slovakia in a few months. So all these countries can see where it leads to, and yet there are strong forces within the countries who try to pressure their nation to the same direction.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they are often talking about sexual freedom. How do they describe sexual freedom? What does it mean?
Yeah, okay, it just means do whatever you like. Everything is the same. I use the term deregulation of the sexual norms. In the financial sector, we have a deregulation of the financial norms, and we see where it leads to. Total chaos, yeah? Now we have a deregulation of the sexual norms. As men, we are not animals. Animals are bound by instinct. We are free. That's the specific for the human being. So how do we deal with this gift of sexuality, which is strong drive? How do we deal with it? And this concept of freedom says anything you do is fine. And let us teach...
Is it true freedom or false freedom?
It is false freedom, of course, yeah. As human beings, we need to have a connection to truth and a connection to responsibility to make the right use of our freedom. Otherwise, freedom becomes destructive. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Every revolution has its own theory or ideology. What is the theory of the sexual revolution? Is this theory scientific?
Those are two questions.
Is it gender theory?
Well, genderism is a new term. And we had the sexual revolution of '68. They just said, do anything you like, it's fine. Yeah. And have sex with children, have open sex before children, that was '68. And do whatever you like. With the same sex or other sex, everything is fine. So '68 just said, do whatever you like. Now this feminism is a very important influence for this, and the homosexual movement. And now we have something new, it's called gender ideology or genderism. And it really is a product of the joining of feminism with the homosexual movement. Feminism, many lesbians are in the feministic movement, and they give birth, so to speak, to genderism. And gender is an ideology which says something very mad. It says there are not two sexes, which actually everybody knows, whether you are a woman or whether you are a man, there are many sexes. There is homosexual man, homosexual woman, bisexual man and woman, transsexual man and woman, and this is the main thing of your identity. This is a mad theory. We know we are man and woman.
Is it ridiculous theory?
It is completely
Unlogical.
ridiculous. It is unlogical, and everybody knows it's untrue. And when a baby
Everybody knows.
I think so, yeah. And when a baby is born, the first thing we say, what is it? Is it a girl or is it a boy? This is what interests us most. And now we have this movement going on all over the world, into the academic, in the universities.
How is it possible?
Well, let's first say what is going on. They say it restricts our freedom to be, by society, be sort of forced into the man role and into the woman role. This is a restriction of our freedom. We need to have an identity. Yeah, it's not a restriction of our freedom, it's demolition of our identity. And a healthy individual person, we have to become a mature woman, and we have to become a mature man. We have to become mothers and fathers, which is a big responsibility. I have 3 children, I know what it's about. And everybody really knows what it's about. And if we ruin that matrix of our human existence, we just ruin the fundamentals of our society.
You claim that some of the world organizations are in the service of the sexual revolution. Which are these organizations?
Yeah.
What exactly do they work to promote gender ideology and sexual revolution?
Let me go a little bit back, even before the '68 movement, to Wilhelm Reich. Wilhelm Reich worked in the in Germany before the Nazis, the Weimar Republic, and his works were read again by and taken up by the '68 revolution, and he put into print. He says, if you want to destroy the bourgeois family, he was a communist, and the church and the relationship to God, you have to sexualize children. That was an opposition movement. He died in prison. Now, and '68 was an opposition movement. Now this very same policy is happening and being forced on the world by the United Nations, by the European Union. Croatia will enter the European Union and you will be under that pressure. By the big foundations like Rockefeller and Bill Gates Foundation, and by huge NGOs, non-government organizations like International Planned Parenthood. They have their branch in about 180 countries, and are the biggest abortion undertaker on this planet. Yeah, so it is strange that a movement which was an opposition movement is now the mainstream of these international organizations and the huge network pressing it into every country on this earth.
And what exactly do they work?
How do they do it? Well, they work for abortion. It's all, the language is being changed. What is abortion is now called reproductive health services. They use terms which hide what is behind it. Yeah, this word reproductive health means abortion. They fight for the fundamental right of abortion, which is just so terrible. If you think the fundamental rights were formulated in 1948 after the war, the people of this earth wanted to say a human person has dignity and you cannot destroy it. And now they fight for abortion as a fundamental right, to kill the baby in the womb of the woman as a fundamental right. You know, this is just shows where we are at. Mm-hmm. This is an important thing. Very important is the sexualization of children.
Mm-hmm. This is promoting sexual education in public school, I suppose.
That's it. That's it. And obligatory. You force children to go into this, and you take away the authority of the parents, who really have the right, the fundamental right, as it is in that 48 declaration, of educating their children, because normally they love their children. Yeah, they can do it better than state authorities. All totalitarian regimes want to get hold of the young, of the youth. You know this here, and we know it from Nazis, you know it from communism, and now this is happening with genderism, the same thing, and they sexualize children from the very beginning.
It is very dangerous.
Indeed, it's extremely dangerous, because a sexualized child, or even sex within the family, which they work for bringing down the incest taboo, yeah, destroys a family. It destroys the childhood of the child. The childhood is defined by a realm where it's kept free of sexuality. Children are curious, of course, yeah, but they need to have a realm where they can learn and play and have an innocent life, which is hardly possible with the media in our time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How people are starting to believe in some ideas of sexual revolution, like you choose your own gender, you are not born and determined as man or as woman by birth, every type of sexual relationships and behaviors are equally good, there is no abnormal sexual behavior.
Yeah.
You said that the theory, no you, but Pope said, is trivial in some way.
Yeah.
But legislation in many countries supports this theory through laws.
Yeah. It is amazing. Real brainwashing through the media is going on. We see films all the time. We're exposed to sexual images all the time. Yeah. Now we have a brainwashing because the media all are on this side. Only the very small media oppose this. The mainstream media are all on this strategy. And you hear it all the time. You hear.
Is it strange?
Very strange, indeed, very strange. And you hear, well, these poor homosexual minority, they're discriminated, we have to give them the rights, equal rights, they have to be able to marry. Everybody knows that two persons of the same sex cannot form a marriage, cannot form a family. Yeah, and if you say a frog is a bird, it doesn't make the frog a bird, it just confuses people. So people, and of course grown-ups, it's difficult to change their mind. They basically know something is wrong. But you can change children. You can give them children books, you can indoctrinate children.
For example, is there any fairy tale with two princes in marriage?
Yeah, you have children books in Germany and in other countries where a prince marries a princess. Yeah, you turn their mind, you show them sexual images. In Germany, not only Germany, all the German-speaking countries and beyond, yeah, there is the sexual network works everywhere. Mm-hmm. Children in school have to learn how to pull condoms over plastic penises. You know, girls and boys sitting in the classroom, or to model the sexual organs out of a plastic material. You see, and if a child sits there in the classroom and has some plastic material and forms a penis or a vagina, it does something with the child, because you only touch genitals in an intimate love relationship normally. And here you have a classroom where children are taught to do this. So they have, these activists have very clever methods to actually change a child, yeah, and
they will change the future of society.
Well, the future depends on our children, of course. Will they be able to form families? Will they be able to take responsibility as mother and father? Will they be able? We need to be educated for this. It's not easy to be parents, yeah. It is not easy to take responsibility and be good parents. So they go to the very root. Pope Benedict calls this an anthropological revolution. Who is man? Who are we as man? What is this? Are we called for love? How do we use our power of sexuality to express love and to be open for life? This is what sexuality is about. And if we change this and say sexuality is just a matter of of satisfying our lust, we change the whole creation. Yeah?
Yes. You claim that the ultimate goal of the gay parade, for example, is not getting rights to same-sex marriage and adoption of children, but the destruction of the traditional family and marriage. Why do you think so?
We now have a battle in all countries of Europe, not only Europe, in America also. The battle is at a hot stage, to say that a same-sex couple has exactly the same rights as a heterosexual couple. I already said that if you call a frog a bird, it's not going to be a bird. A marriage is defined as the bond, the lifelong bond, if possible, of a man and a woman open for life. That is marriage. And all scientific research shows that children want their biological parents to stay together. We all know, every person knows this in their heart. And if it breaks up, it's deep suffering. Yeah? And that this family, which is the only true family, is the best way for children to grow up. We know this, scientific research shows it. So now we say homosexual couples must have the same rights, even to adopt children which they have, which are in no relationship with them. There's one thing is striking, of about at the most 2.5% of the population have a homosexual orientation. Of these, only a small minority lives together.
2%.
Something like this. And they do not, in the countries where you have the civil union possibility, only about 2% make use of it. Yeah? So you have homosexuals, a smaller minority, and only a very small minority of them wants to make use of that. And at the same time, we have this battle around the world. We must have a homosexual marriage. They don't want it. They don't make use of it. So why all this fuss? Why all this excitement? Why do we change our laws? Why do we
change?
Because the family is to be destroyed. Yeah? Because they want to destroy the family.
Who really wants to destroy family?
Yeah. First of all, how is it destroyed? We must have to live family, to live marriage, to live man and woman, father and mother, is not easy. It needs an orientation. We need to be educated for this. We need to learn how to be it. And if you tell children, use your body as a lust organ, which they're trying to do, how can they need contraception, they need abortion, they will have difficulty to use their energies for learning. Sigmund Freud says culture arises through the sublimation of the sexual drive. By using the strong force which we have, for not directly, but to keeping it in, and this is an energy which creates culture. And if we create a society where every sexual drive is immediately satisfied in any way, where is the energy to create culture? This was the theory of Sigmund Freud. And there was an anthropologist called J.D. Unwin who published a big work in 1936 in Oxford University Press. The work is called Sex and Culture. And he wanted to find out in which relationship are the sexual norms and the height of the culture. And what he discovered, and he says without an exception, is that you can have high culture only with strict sexual norms, which means virginity before marriage and monogamy in marriage. He said there's no exception. And had he known what he would find out, he would not have started. He was not a Christian. He didn't like what he found out. But he says this is that he found out without exception. So if we sexualize children, we will bring down the culture, as Wilhelm Reich said. Yeah.
But who really wants to destroy family, to destroy culture, to destroy humanity?
That's the big question. I can see it's going on. And I'm amazed that it is going on at that speed and with that force. I can see it's being done by the United Nations, by European Union, and so on. We spoke about this. Who is behind it, I don't know. I simply have to say I don't know. I see one thing: they want to reduce the population on this earth, and all these methods lead to a reduction of population because we need contraception, we need abortion. Homosexuals don't have children, and you bring down the family. So, who are really the forces behind it? I just have to say I don't know.
What can happen with parents who do not want sex education inspired by gender theory for their children? For example, in European Union.
Yes.
What can happen?
What can happen? Well, it's different in different countries. One of the countries which is on the front of this is Great Britain. They have laws, equality laws and hate speech laws. So when you do something which they consider as discriminating, they can take you to prison. Yeah, they can fine you. And it's happening on many levels. There is an observatory called, it's in the internet, Intolerance Against Christians. They document 800 cases of intolerance against Christians. So if you, like a bishop, Anglican bishop in Great Britain, he refused to have an active homosexual in youth work. He was fined £40,000 and had to go to diversity training. His mind had to be changed, yeah? So things like this can happen. In Germany, we have a very strict law that children must go to school. There are parents who don't want children to be in the sex education. They are not allowed to take children out. There are some brave families who did do it. They were fined. They refused to pay the fine. The children were taken away into state care, and the parents had to go to prison. Yeah, this is happening in Germany. Here in Croatia, you have gained freedom now. We think it's freedom. And I hear that Judith Reisman couldn't speak here, and
some places.
At some places, she could. Today, I met a young woman who seems to be quite well known in Croatia. She works against this. She walked on the street beside a Christopher Street Day parade here in Split, and she was arrested for 6 hours without having the possibility to phone anybody. So there are many methods. They are different in many cultures, but there's also hope.
Yes, I hope so. There is hope.
We hope so, and there is hope. And what we see happening in France now is quite amazing. Nobody would have dreamt of it at the end of last year. Now we have a nationwide movement of millions of people on the street.
I heard for that.
Yeah.
But not in the media.
Well, the media try to hide it, but they can't. When you have 1 million people on the street, you can't hide it. They try to. The government of Hollande prohibited that the pictures are shown of masses and masses and masses of people on the street. They have had two national manif pour tous, it's called, and they passed the law. They don't care what people say, and they will have a third one on the 26th of May, manif pour tous, and they're expecting more than 1 million people. There already were more than 1 million people. Many people are supporting it. 26 mayors of little towns said, we are against this, we will not do it in our municipalities. And with great joy, I've seen now here in Croatia.
They feel dangerous of that ideology, I suppose.
They feel that the ideology is dangerous, yes, because they say every human being has a mother and a father. Even a homosexual has a mother and a father. And homosexuals are on the stage and say, we are homosexuals and we are gay, but we have a social conscience and we want that children have a father and a mother. And we are born from a father and a mother. Yeah? So it's a very, very wide movement. And with great joy, I see that this is happening now. You're beginning to build up for a referendum in Croatia, and you're using the same symbols. Mm-hmm. You're using the same colors, pink and blue, which we know what it means, yeah?
Are we losing, in the name of the sexual freedom, our real freedom?
Yes, indeed.
Are we at the beginning of new totalitarian system?
Well, what is freedom? If we are governed by our sex drive and have to do what our sex drive wants us to do, where's our freedom? We have to master, we have to become masters of our drives. If we are not, we slide into addiction. An addicted person, and there are many sex addicted people, there are many pornography addicted people, there are many young people who are addicted to pornography. Where's the freedom? Freedom for a human being means that we have to master, that we have to become mature and strong and be governed by our will and our reason and the good we have in our heart. And that means to master our drives. Yeah? Mm-hmm. I haven't answered the first question completely. Is there a new totalitarianism? May I come back to that? Yeah, and I think exactly this is happening. Totalitarianism has always comes in a new cloth, so to speak, a new mantle. And we know totalitarianism with boots and, you know, what Hitler looked like, what Stalin looked like. Now it even says, I'm freedom. It says, I'm freedom, I'm tolerance, I'm non-discrimination. But inside you see that it is totally intolerant against anybody who opposes it. I hear that here in Croatia, the people who are collecting signatures for the referendum were attacked and their stand was put on fire. Yeah? So where's the tolerance? The tolerance only it's only used, but there is no true tolerance. As Christians, we have less and less possibilities to raise our voice, to speak in the media, to be in charge of our children, to have influence on the laws. There is no tolerance. It's getting tighter and tighter and tighter.
What are the consequences of the sexual education inspired by the sexual revolution in Western countries? Has it achieved results? Are there still a typical male and female occupation? Are people happier, healthier?
It changes our culture. If we destroy the family, we will have a completely different culture than we had. I'm here in Split and I see this wonderful culture which has come from Greece, from the Romans, the Christians. Today I was in the cathedral and you see it all in one building. Yeah, what Europe is built on. And the family and marriage are the moral foundation, the social foundation of this culture. And if we destroy the behavior, the morals which make family possible, we destroy the culture.
Mm-hmm. But in Western countries, is there any good results of this type of sexual education?
Well, I don't see any good results. What is the condition of our young people? In Germany,
are they happier, healthier?
In Germany, 20% of the children come into the kindergarten with psychological disorders. 30% of young people in puberty have psychological disorders. So are they happy? Look at their faces. They plug their ears so they don't get in touch with this world. Are they happy? We see that the school system is going down and down. In Germany, I know the statistical numbers, 10 to 15% leave school without being able to write and read and do arithmetic properly, and they don't get jobs because they are not able to do the jobs.
Mm-hmm. And rate of abortion?
Yes,
is it higher?
The rate of abortion, in Germany, they say 1,000 children are killed on every working day. And the official numbers are 120,000, but everybody knows there's a dark number to it, and the reality is something over 200,000 children every year. This happens and the insurance pays for it. Yeah, this happens in a historical, epochal situation of all our countries in Europe, Croatia, Poland, Germany, all countries, with a birth rate which is so low that within one generation the population decreases a whole third. Yeah. So if we go on like this, in 100 years there will be nothing left of a Croatian population. In Germany, the social systems will break down because we do not have enough young people. They're simply not born. They are aborted and used with contraceptives against them. Yeah. So we have serious problems which every politician knows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what is about gender theory? Is there any results? For example, are there still typical male and female occupations in some country?
Well, of course, there, as we know. There's an interesting thing going on in Norway. Norway was one of the avant-garde gender countries. The Scandinavian countries, they tried to equalize men and women for several decades. And there is a comedian who is known everywhere in Norway. When he goes on the street, people know him. Harald Eyer is his name. And he said, isn't that strange? We have 2 or 3 decades of trying to make men and women equal, and still among the nurses...
Strong sexual education, I suppose.
Yes, very much so, yes. And still we have only 10% men nurses, and if you look at engineering, still we have only 10% women in engineering. He said, this is strange, so it's not working. And he went out and went to gender scientists and said, what are you doing, what's your work about? And he went to serious scientists and put it on TV. You can all watch it on the internet. And the result was that these gender scientists really appeared pretty, I mean, people laughed about them. Yeah, you could see they were ideologized and had nothing to do with science. The result was that the Norwegian government scrapped all the financial resources for gender research because they don't want to waste their money. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So unexpected things like this can happen, and we should just work for the good cause. And the good cause is healthy young people, happy young people, families. The families make us happy. Family breakdown makes everybody very unhappy, and the future of our societies.
Mm-hmm. Do we need sexual counter-revolution, and how to implement counter-revolution?
Well,
what we have to do?
What do you have to do? Well, I'm writing my books to open people's minds for it. Everybody has to listen inwardly, what should I be doing, and overcome the timidity and the cowardness, because it takes courage in our society to work for it. Here's the referendum in Paris, the whole nation is up on the road. Judith Reisman exposed Kinsey. So every person can do something. In the media, not howl with the wolves, as we say in German, but be committed to truth, even if it costs us something. And more it does have a price, and we have to be willing to pay the price.
What is for you the true human freedom? What does it mean? To be really free.
To be really free, I give a religious answer. I'm a Catholic, and it is the true freedom is to do the will of God. And because there is a will of God, there is a reason why we are created, and we have to. God doesn't force us to do that. It means a search, and it means a willingness to tune into what God wants for our life. This is a religious answer, and in my own experience, I see it's true.
And what really makes people happy?
The same thing.
Same thing. What is faith for you? We are in year of faith.
What is faith for me?
Yes, gift, grace.
Of course, a grace. on our part, we can do something on our part. The real thing comes from God. Our part is to be truthful with ourselves. That for me is the most important thing. And we know there is a compassionate God. He will forgive our sins, so we can be truthful. That we can always bring everything to God and He will forgive us. And this is, I think, the only requirement that we advance on this path with God, to be truthful. And by moving out of our habitual sins, the truth will open up. If we are in sins, we do not see the truth. So we can do a part, but God, there's a saying, we go one step and God comes 10 steps towards us.
Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Poštovani gledatelji, hvala vama na pozornosti. Bila je ovo emisija Vidljivi tragovi. Ostanite i dalje uz naš program. Slijedi naša redovita rubrika Vrata vjere. Doviđenja.